Are you looking to revolutionize your outreach for business messaging in 2025, but you just don't really know where to start? Hey, I'm Will Craig. I'm a co-founder of a company called Signal House. We're a messaging provider that specializes in connectivity for CRM systems, but we can power any messaging from an application to a person. That's A to P messaging. So I want to walk you through the nuances of the 10DLC registration process, what information you're going to need, what the process is going to look like, and what has changed for 2025. So watch this short video, and at the end, you are going to know specifically how you can streamline your registration and get a first-time approval. So before we dig in too deeply, we have to talk a little bit about what 10DLC A2P actually is and what it means. So 10DLC just means 10-digit long code. So these are the phone numbers that you are so familiar with. The 10-digit long phone numbers where the first three numbers of that number correspond to a geographic location within the US. So they're local phone numbers. We are headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. So 614 is our main area code. So if I was looking for a 10DLC for my company, I would get a 614 number. Now, what about A2P? A2P means application to person. So essentially, this is any system, any software system that can send a message to a person. That's A2P 10DLC messaging. So if you're a business and you want to send a message to a customer, you have to go through the A2P 10DLC registration process. Now, let's dig into this a little bit. So there's a company that oversees this process, and it's a two-step process. The first process is going to be the brand registration and then the campaign registration. So we'll dive into what that means here in a second. Let's talk about the company that oversees all of this. They're called the Campaign Registry, or TCR. They're an independent third-party organization where you can go and log in and you can see all of your brands and campaigns. Now, that is if you are what's called a campaign service provider or a CSP. If you are not one of these, and you would know if you are, you log into the TCR portal to submit your campaigns and brands. If you're not, that's totally fine. You don't even need to be one to submit your 10DLC registration. That's how easy it is. You can go to a messaging provider like Signal House, like any other messaging provider out there, and you can have them submit campaigns on your behalf. That's submitting them as a reseller. We have a really good webinar about whether or not you want to be a CSP or a reseller. So go ahead and go check that out on our channel if you want to learn more about that. So let's talk a little bit about this two-step process. So the first step is your brand registration. This is a pretty quick and straightforward process. So brand registration is essentially just registering your company information. It's a way for the carriers to verify that you really are who you say you are. If you say that you want to send messages on behalf of Company 123, we need to know that you are a part of Company 123 and that you have Company 123's information so that we can, to a good degree, verify that you should have access to that data. So the data that's important here is the legal company name, the EIN, and by the way, you can find your EIN on your W-2 if you are an employee, a W-9, or the SS-4 if you are a business owner. You can also contact the IRS to get this information, and if you're an employee, again, you can contact your HR department or your accounting department. They'll be able to get all of it sorted for you. So you need to have your company name, your EIN, your address, the form of company you are, so private company, public company, not-for-profit, etc., and then the type of company again, but this is more so LLC or sole proprietorship, whatever the case may be. So you need to have those pieces of data. So what the campaign registry does is when you submit this information, regardless of if you submit it on the CSP portal or if you submit it directly to your messaging provider, they will match that up against an IRS database. That database is going to have all of that information, and it's going to double check if the EIN and the company name and address and everything that you entered checks out. So long as it does, you'll get a verified stamp next to your brand. That means that your brand is good to go and you're ready to move on to the next step of the verification process, which is campaign verification. Now, this one is going to be a couple more steps than the brand verification because this is a manual review by an organization called a Direct Connect aggregator. So a Direct Connect aggregator, or DCA as it's called in the industry, is a company that sits between your messaging provider and the carriers. They essentially act as a gateway. So they finally approve your campaign, and if they approve it, thumbs up, then all of your traffic is going to flow to the carriers. Consequently, if they reject it, then you will not be able to send any messaging. And so it's really important that you have your campaign ready and perfect so that when a DCA reviews it, you get a first-time approval, because it does cost money every time they review it. So it's a one-time $15 charge every time the DCA reviews it. So that's why it's obviously cost beneficial to have it approved on the first go. We have a really in-depth webinar that covers exactly what information you want to enter to every single spot on the campaign registry for your campaign. So again, feel free to check out that video if you want to learn a little bit more. Right now, we're going to dig into what the key aspects are and changes for 2025 that it's really important that you are aware of. So first, let's talk about the information that you are generally going to need. You're going to have to submit your campaign description. This should just be descriptive of the type of messaging that you are sending and a little bit of information about your company. So basically what you do, what industry you're in, and the type of customers that you generally communicate with. Now let's move on to the call to action and message flow. This is going to be the number one reason that you get rejected, is not having an accurate or fully approvable call to action or message flow. So in your call to action, you have to describe specifically how an end user is going to opt into your message. So if you go door to door and they sign a form, then you need to put that down. You have to describe exactly how it is. If you just have your number out there for anyone to reach out to you and they just find that and they message you, then you have to show proof of that. Most commonly, though, is that you use your website as a way to capture leads. So you have a lead form on your website, people put in information, they click a box to receive messaging from you, and then they submit their information to you. So this is the one that we're going to be focusing on the most because it's the one that has the most scrutiny from the DCAs. So here's what you're going to have on your website and in your CTA to be able to get approved. So let's talk about the CTA and message flow first on the campaign registry, or what you are submitting to your messaging provider. So you need to have a brief description of how someone finds your website and then enters the information, and specifically where they enter the information on your website. So this is going to be the first thing, is the CTA link, or the link to where someone actually puts in their information on your website. So that needs to be the first piece of information. Users will travel to our website, which is insert the website name, and then they will navigate to contact us, for example. On the contact us page, and again, you're just walking the DCA through specifically how someone would consent to your messaging. So on the CTA or on the contact us form, they are going to see a form to fill out their information. Phone number is going to be one of those fields that they can fill out. Underneath that, there's going to be a blurb that says you consent to receive messaging from company name. And so this is where I'll take a break and pause and say the most important thing that you have to have in your CTA and in your website, anywhere someone clicks a button to receive information from you and can input their phone number, you have to have these elements. You have to have the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, and the cost. So the who, what is the who? The who is who they're consenting to receive messaging from. So this is your legal company name. What is the type of messaging that you're sending? So for example, customer care messaging. The when is going to be when they can expect to receive messages from you. So message frequency may vary is often what people put, but if you know you're going to send messages only on every other Monday, then put every other Monday. So it's the who, the what, the when. Now we're going to talk about the where. So where can I find your privacy policy? So make sure that the privacy policy is linked in the CTA on your website. Now on your call to action and message flow on the TCR portal or to your messaging provider, you just need to tell them where the privacy policy is located and enter the privacy policy link where you have the option to do so on TCR. So we've talked about the who, the what, the when, the where. Now what about the how? So the how is going to be how can someone get help and how can someone opt out? So how can someone get help? How can they get help? Generally, it's by responding help. Now, what about opt out? Generally, that is stop or unsubscribe, but you have to have those keywords in there. And then what about the cost? The final thing, message and data rates may apply. That is the key. So for Signal House, this is a CTA that I would give. By providing your phone number, clicking this button and submitting the form, you're consenting to be contacted by SMS text message from Signal House LLC regarding account issues and outages. So this would be a customer care CTA. Our message frequency may vary. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to unsubscribe from further messaging from Signal House. Respond help for more information. See our privacy policy that is linked here. So that has all of the elements that you need. I'm telling you who, I'm telling you what, I'm telling you where, I'm telling you how, and I'm telling you the cost. So I have all of those elements there. Let's talk a little bit about sample messaging. So sample messages are another thing that you are able to input data into on the campaign registry. My number one thing for this is just to make sure that each use case you register, because there are mixed use case campaigns, so you could register customer care and marketing, for example, you need to have at least one sample message for each of your use cases. Another point that people often get wrong or they have an issue with, and this is again something that is more of a pressing issue for 2025, is that if you say that you have embedded links in your messages, you have to provide at least one example of such link. Now, here's a pro tip, and that is that if you send a lot of links, you can use sample messages to register additional links. So if you know that you're going to send a specific message that has a link in it, just add that as a sample message. Super easy. And then the last couple things I want to talk about, the opt-out message, opt-in message, and help message. So the messages that you're actually registering to where if someone responds start, what do they receive in response? Now, a couple things you have to have here. So on the start message, for example, or the opt-in message, you need to have your company name, message and data rates may apply, message frequency may vary. Now, of course, if data rates don't apply and you know what that rate is, then put that, and same with frequency. But you have to have those elements, and that you can respond stop to opt out of messaging from your company name. So the opt out just has to say your company name, you have successfully opted out from company name, and then we will no longer contact you. You won't receive any additional messages, something to that effect, and that they can respond start to opt back in. Now, your help message has to give information how you can opt out. It needs to direct people to where they can get additional support. So that's generally either a support email or a support phone number. And generally, I always put my privacy policy link there as well. So that's just directly in that help message. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and this is the number one change that is happening for 2025, is that if you use a mixed use campaign, you need to have multiple CTAs on your website. So let me break this down. So that means if you use a mixed campaign, and anyone who has watched a video of mine before knows that I am a massive fan of the mixed use campaign. And the reason why, just very briefly, is that it prevents you from having your messages blocked or filtered by the carriers for drift content. So if you say I am only sending customer care messaging and you pitch a product that might help a user, might actually legitimately be a benefit to the user and help them for the specific use case that they're asking you about, that can be considered marketing. And that drifting from one use case to another can get your messaging shut down. Again, we have other videos about this, so check those out. But again, I'm a massive fan of this mixed use case campaign. But if you have a mixed use case campaign, let's say customer care and marketing, really the trigger here is that if marketing is one of your use cases, it has to have a separate item on your website to opt into it. So that long sort of message that we had by providing the telephone number, clicking the button, etc., you need to have one of those for customer care, one of those for marketing. And if you have account notifications in marketing, you need to have one for account notifications and one for marketing. The only time that you only need to have one for mixed use campaign is if marketing is not included. So if it's account notifications and 2FA, then you would not need to have two. You'd only need to have one. But this is something that the DCAs are cracking down on tremendously. So it's something that you need to be aware of to make sure that your campaigns get approved fully on the first try. So that's it for today's video. We will be back again tomorrow with another helpful YouTube video for you in the messaging ecosystem. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If it was helpful, please share it to someone. Subscribe. Let us know what you would like to learn about in the comments below. And we will be back here with another video tomorrow.